First off, we had number one dads covering the extraordinary, the dark, FKA Twigs with 2 weeks. And just then, Foals with Mountain at My Gates. Garvey, man, take us to Foals.
Yeah, so that memory comes back to me for a couple of reasons. One is that it's probably the best music festival I've been to, the Governor's Ball in New York. It's amazing. And I was just watching them. I don't know about you guys, but man, if I could be anything else in the world, it would be the lead singer of a band.
I think about it, man. I think about singing so much. I think about being able to sing so much and get like deeply upset.
But imagine being good at it and writing stuff and people find meaning in the lyrics you've written about something in your life and sing it back to you.
Yep.
Like
incredible. And then there's like social commentary in it.
Yeah,
there's all this like deeper art to it as well that, you know, is an aspect of music that you get, you know, introduced to when people, usually your friends, are explaining, oh, this song's actually about this.
Yeah.
You know, you talked about your song before from the movie. What was the name of the movie again?
Oh, Pretty Woman. Yeah,
Pretty Woman. You're like, oh, it's actually... the song's such jovial in its construction. However, the content, the subject matter is actually really dark, and it's this, and you're like, wow, that's such a creative act to construct that. Like, how beautiful.
Yeah, totally. And speaking of the construction of that song, it's funny because I was going to move to New York for a job, and at Golden Plains, I met Annalise, and the joke is that I was living in Melbourne, but instead I went to Bendigo because that's where she went to work as a doctor. I was just finishing my medical specialty training, and she was just starting. So I was like, oh man, she's like 7 years younger than me, and I was really bummed out. So it's this nice memory of New York, but I also a little bit tried to pursue that dream, like who the hell do I think I was? But I went and got singing lessons, and I rolled in, and they're like, can you just pick a song you like and try and sing it, and we'll see how good you are? And I stupidly picked that song, and if you listen to the vocals in it, he's like so high.
He's got some serious range, man.
And I'm sitting there with this like lovely dude who's just trying to sing it, and I reckon that guy probably had about 10 lessons, and he was so optimistically like trying to help me learn how to sing that song.
Man,
I ended up passing on it.
If you don't mind, Matt, I'm going to hijack you here, and I want to ask you, Doc. You mentioned about obviously your early days in the R&B club and Frankston, and you know, probably doing the wrong thing at school, and then you know you kind of jump around to your wife and your partner and moving to Bendigo and medicine.
Yeah,
they seem kind of far apart.
Yeah, totally.
Can you talk to us about how you went from point A to point B?
Yeah, definitely. Like it's funny, getting kicked out of school was probably lucky for me because the guys that were playing up, I was just playing up worse than them, but the guys that were playing up stayed in a school that wasn't great. And the good thing was the only school that would take me was a really good school. You know, it's interesting about, you guys might find this a little bit interesting, schools that kick kids out are worse for the kids that stay behind. The argument is he's a bad kid. The other kids don't deserve to be in an environment with him. But it's actually a sign that a school is struggling to support all the kids in its community. And so I experienced that personally. So now like my PhD's in that space. Like how do we actually support educators, the most important professional in the world? And so I played up a bit, but I played up in my 20s as well. Like just kind of a lot of the way that we know, especially men, deal with childhood trauma is like anger. And I was getting in lots of fights. Like
like you were seeking them out.
Yeah. I was playing up. I never started a fight, but the insecurity in my masculinity meant that I could never walk away from one.
Yeah.
And Tatiana, the girl that I talked about, the first time I was out with her socially, a carload of guys down in Frankston rolled past and called out something. One of my mates called out something back, and we got the crap beaten out of us by, you know, all those boys ran off. I stayed there because I couldn't run away from them. I stayed there and just got beaten up by a bunch of guys, and that was like first time I'd been out with Tatiana, and then dated her for 7 years. Another girlfriend, I've been really lucky to have amazing partners in my life. I was out at a cut copy gig. I went to, did my early training in Coolangatta. And you think Frankston's rough, Coolangatta back in the day was pretty wild. And I remember at a cut copy gig, I rolled out and I just dancing, coming back again. I danced with the wrong girl. And I just rolled out and got the absolute crap beaten out of me by a bunch of guys that were mates with the guy that liked that girl. And I actually started, the first time I ever stepped foot on a paediatric ward, and that's like my area of specialty now, I had 2 black eyes. So, and I remember remember this mum looking at me as I was like walked into the room, and they're like, you go in and they're like, hey, you cool if this medical student comes in as well? And the mum's like, yeah. And then I roll in with 2 black eyes, and she just looks at me, and because it's Queensland, they're a rugby state. She's like, you didn't get that playing rugby. I've got like these 2 black eyes. And so that was like, you know, the first time I ever saw a kid as a doctor was with 2 black eyes. So I'd kind of, you know, had this rough time. But, you know, it's interesting, without getting too deep and making it a therapy session, for me, relationships are what traumatized me, but they're also what healed me. Like I've been really lucky to have some phenomenal people in my life. Nick, who I did the podcast with, is a healing part of my life, and Elise, my partner, is a healing part of my life. I'm not in touch with like really family. Like I've had some really awful trauma as an adult from family members as well, including threats of violence and all that kind of stuff. So you know, I've been really lucky that I've met some people, and I've had an opportunity, which every single kid in the world should have. I've had an opportunity to succeed in the things that I care about and that I'm good at. And like all 3 of us need to think about, how do we do that for our kids from this early age? You know what I mean? How do I make sure they experience unconditional love, but also success in the things that they care about, whether it's a painting or it's, you know, a certain game, or just having a kick in the footy with dad in the backyard, you know, like that kind of stuff.
Was there a moment where you sort of had this like coming to, where I was like, man, violence is like, and my reactions to things, and I'm responsible for how I feel in those situations? Was there like a coming to moment where like, I never want to act like that again? Or was it this slow sort of burn and you acquiring skills over time?
So there was a moment that was really bad that in hindsight was the turning point.
Yep.
But
you didn't see it like that at the moment?
No. So after I got jumped, like I'd just been in so many fights, I actually went and started boxing.
Yep.
I boxed at Tweed PCYC for a couple of years, got really into that, and like found my people again, interestingly, because I was in med school, all these private school people, and then I was boxing with these, you know, guys from the other side of the tracks, and I was like, these are my guys, like, and I connected with them. When I was at the end of med school, my mum died. Kind of really tragic story around that, but I just completely went off the rails, like started drinking heaps and playing up a lot and all that kind of stuff. And I used to skateboard a lot, and I was like bombing this steep driveway up in 1770, like last place to surf is up the East Coast, just bombing this steep driveway right at the end of med school. My mum had died. I was really having a struggle, fell off, going like really flying, and a compound fractured my right wrist. So 2 bones out of my wrist. Got like sped to surgery. I've had multiple operations on it and stuff. The first thing when I woke up from the surgery was, can I ever box again? And they were like, nah, you'll never be able to box again. And I felt like I'd lost my way of dealing with it all, because I wanted to fight the world for what had happened. And I still feel like that. You know, I still have that trigger in me, that people trigger me and I go towards it aggressively, and I have to deal with that, like you do, Tom. Like off air, you were talking about how you think about your feelings and your sense of self. Like it's beautiful. It's taken me a lot of trauma to get there, and it's only in hindsight that I can go back to the point where I had to destroy myself to kind of come out of it. And then I had these kind of healing moments, and you know, I kind of came through it all. And I'm still working on it. Like I was sitting in a therapy session yesterday before I went to clinic to see kids myself, like getting a bit emotional with a therapist and all that stuff, because so much of my childhood comes up in that stuff. And I kind of, you know, even the advocacy work I do is like trying to change the world for the kids that are in the setting I was in. Because I can't go back and help my mum. I can't go back and help my little bro or me, but I can help the kids now that are facing that.
And are those healing moments you speak of? Because trauma is very, you know, it's very popular in the sort of language right now. Your childhood trauma, it's your trauma. It's very much this, you know, past deterministic thing that's happened to you that's made you how you are. Is the healing moments from trauma, are they around awareness? Are you like, this is happening to me, I am this way? And is it the awareness that helps you to change your behaviour? Because that's, like we spoke about off air, it's for me in a sense of being like, like this is maybe not what everyone's stock response is. It's like clench your jaw and like, fuck, there's Weet-Bix everywhere, like fuck. Yeah. It's actually something that is unique to me, and it's something that I do and I have to become aware of, and then once that's happened, I can change. Like, is that kind of what you're talking about with healing moments? Is it like, oh, wow, I'm aware of this, or is there more to it? Is it more like, oh no, I'm aware of it and I need to tell someone all the shame that I feel about it, and I need to cry and let emotion out? Like, can you explain
Yeah,
that
definitely.
to us?
So your ability to do that, especially if you can do it in the moment where the Weet-Bix has gone across the kitchen, is an emotional regulation skill set that you've kind of either it's come quite naturally to you, but you've still learnt it, or you had to do a lot of work. I have to do a lot of work to be able to do that, and it's only in my 30s that I really started to figure that out, because I was kind of just in such a hole. And I think that it's more so than like this active realization of the healing of trauma. It's kind of this slow process. I remember like just forcing myself to do stuff, and this is a lot of kids I see that are suicidal in clinic and stuff like that. They just takes a lot of effort just to get out of bed, just to get out the bedroom door and get out into the world, and I remember just that weight lifting and not feeling like it was a lot of effort just to do everyday stuff. And it was a slow process, but I had to do a lot of work, but it was actually just a couple of people around me that helped me heal that. And you kind of hope that every kid in the world deserves to have just one parent that helps them feel safe, and that sense of safety in relationships is really important. Do you know what I mean? Especially your kids, if you're lucky enough to have a partner, just knowing like if you stuff up. And like I still had some work to do when I met Annalise, but she wasn't going to do the work for me, but she was going to be like, I'm here, like I'll be here, I'll give you space, I'll give you some space to stuff it up still. And, she still does that. And so I'm so privileged to have a relationship like that I feel safe within. And it's, and the way that we think about relationships is built in childhood. Do you know what I mean? That framework, that's what attachment is. Attachment is like, am I loved and am I deserving of that love? And your kids will be thinking about that now, and that will decide what their future partners are like, how they treat others, how they expect to be treated themselves. It's a lot of weight to hold, but it's a beautiful thing because you can do so much about it.
No, well, what a beautiful full circle moment, right? Talking about now through relationships, you have a space that you feel unconditionally loved and supported, that you can be imperfect, you can confess your shame, you can talk and flesh these things out, right? Through a relationship, let's say with your wife. However, as parents, our goal with the Weet-Bix thing is to create that same thing, right? That's effectively the same thing, right? And so because it's been absent, say, in your childhood, you have to find it. If you're an agent who wants to heal their trauma and progress, you have to find that space, right? So what we're trying to create as parents is one of those, one of the 4 that you might need throughout your life, right?
Yeah, beautiful. And it's also like, it's amazing if you can be like, the Weet-Bix has gone across the kitchen, I'm going to go towards them with connection. But also just making sure, and this is not like I get a little bit of time with my kids every day, but I make sure there is minutes, not hours, minutes of joy every day with my kids. Because then when the Weet-Bix go across, I've got a more powerful connection with them. I can tune in with them better because they're like, and I would say that about every professional that works with families, is the family that's really tough at the school, you've got to earn through all the positive interactions with them the ability to tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, Billy's really playing up. If the only time you tap them on the shoulder is to say, hey, Billy's playing up, they'll just become hostile. And, think about that with relationships. Most of the interactions we have with the people we care about need to be positive, affirming, joy, love. And that gives us more ability to put up boundaries, to give feedback and say, hey, I'm getting really upset that you're talking to your mum like that or whatever, because they go, yeah, but Dad adores me, so I know this isn't the only time he comes to me is to blow up at me. But a lot of us didn't grow up with that.
Mate, I don't really want to stop you talking because you're solving all the problems right now, making so much sense and delivering such a clear, articulate message to all of our listeners and us as hosts. So I want to thank you for that. But I feel like I want to pass you the aux and you can dig up a couple of songs to take us through that sort of troublesome med school time, bombing the hill with a broken wrist.
Yeah, amazing. Maybe something a bit healing.